Hello everyone. Help! I just came back from the movie theaters, and I went and saw The Northman. This is Robert Eggers' newest film about an Icelandic revenge story. Now, to give a little pretext to Robert Eggers, he is someone I consider to be an ingenious and visionary director. His debut feature, The Witch, came out in 2015, and I feel like this film started and propelled this trend of art house horror that we see today. It inspired quite a few filmmakers, with its very low budget, condensed sets, and just heavy style. And while a lot of films that were influenced obviously took more of an original approach to their ideas, there were some that wore its influence a little more closely on its sleeves. Then, with his sophomore film, The Lighthouse, not only being something very different in tone and atmosphere, but to me personally was a monumental achievement in filmmaking. In saying that, I was very excited to see what his latest film would be like. And while I have some grievances with some of the elements of The Northman, this film is still a visual spectacle. Even though this director is working with a bigger budget, making bigger films with bigger sets and more casts and crew, I'm glad that his style still shines through, because this film is beautiful to look at. The lighting choices, the landscape shots, and the movement of the camera all are just brilliant. Literally from the first shot with the hard pan to the Viking ships, you can tell that this is going to be quite the film. The world felt lived in, with many moving parts happening in the background. The fighting was always brutal and intense, along with being very well shot. There was obvious care put into the film's style and presentation, and those are definitely its strongest traits. All the acting was very great, mostly being very dramatic and explosive performances that definitely worked for the most part. The only performances I really didn't like was the one from the child performance, as well as Ethan Hawke. Ethan Hawke didn't do a bad job, I just feel like he didn't fit the role for me. I kind of wanted a performance that was a bit more brutish, and I also think that would have worked more connecting to Alexander Skarsgård's performance in the later half of the film. Technicals aside, I do have some personal problems with the plot and characters. I do think the film had a bit of a rough start. The story in the beginning felt a little messy. It kind of feels like the movie was trying to just hit story beats instead of like a natural flow within the story. Some of the contents being shown were very brutal to look at, but that didn't really connect me with the character's journey. And I'm not trying to say that the characters in this film had to be more likable or anything. I understand that there's supposed to be this moral gray area, but I felt like the hook needed to be a little stronger for me. I will say I think the story and pacing does get much better throughout the film, but it does take a long time for me to really start to get invested. And for some characters, I didn't find myself really caring until the final sequence. There was a lot of exposition in this movie that I don't think really added much. For some of the exposition, I felt like I didn't really get anything of substance out of what was being said. A lot of the conversations really boiled down to something like, let's go get revenge, go grab this, and then let's kick some ass. Which is not necessarily a bad thing in nature, but that idea on repeat does become a little repetitive. To talk about The Lighthouse real quickly, there were some moments of levity within that film, with a good old-fashioned fart joke. However, the attempt of something like that in this film did not work at all for me here. It felt very much out of place. With all my criticisms said, there's a lot that I can still chew on with this film, along with it still being a wonderful experience. I implore everyone watching to still go see it. Please go support this director, because I really want this guy to flourish as a creative. I want to see more from this dude. And I'll probably make a more in-depth review of The Lighthouse some point in the future, but with The Northman, I'm gonna give this one a strong 7 out of 10. Later, skaters.